back, everybody. Thank you for taking some time to check out the latest video that I'm doing here today. Today is, we're getting close to the end of November. We've got a week before Thanksgiving. I'm back from traveling, so hopefully we'll get some more videos up for you in the near future. This is kind of I guess a little bit of a different video. I picked out a couple things that I'd like to talk to you all about briefly here today. But again, thank you for being here. Again, if you like what you see, subscribe, checkbox, everything that we all ask you to do. It helps things out immensely. Starting off today, I'd like to talk to you about a new recording that came while I was away. And then I'd like to talk about Quincy Jones briefly, who passed away recently. Seems like every week there's somebody. Roy Haynes, I think, passed away maybe a week ago. Benny Golson recently. A lot of great players are getting ready to play in that big band upstairs. I guess that must be a hell of a band. And then briefly, just a brief discussion about Kenny Burrell, and then of course my classical record pick of the video, and then maybe a couple random thoughts. Anyhow, thank you for being here. Hang in. We'll try to get through this here in a few minutes, rather than a big lengthy video here today. This record was here when I got home. I have an original of this Pablo, Kansas City, Count Basie 3 for the second time. This is the second recording that this group did with Basie and Louis Billson, and of course, the great Ray Brown. In the last video, I talked about Ray Brown's Solar Energy video that was just released a few weeks ago, re-released by Analog Productions. This is in the Pablo series that's out this year. This is the new release this month, one of them, and it is approaching the sound, I think, of that Ray Brown record that we talked about last month. The remake on this is just amazing. It sounds great. I think it's one of the best sounding Pablos to begin with, but the remix on this is certainly just superb. And again, like I almost say in every video now, Chad over at QRP Analog Productions knocked another one out of the box. I would say if you don't have this, try to keep the glare out. If you don't have this, I would strongly suggest picking it up. Count Basie's a better pianist than a lot of people give him credit for. Stride piano, as well as just great notes. Every note has a purpose when Mr. Basie plays, and this is, we all know Count Basie from the big band setting. Hear him in a trio, it's really amazing. He's on a number of Pablos. This is as good as any of them. I would highly recommend this. Let's talk briefly about Quincy. Wow, I could do. We all could do hours and hours of videos on Quincy Jones. I would suggest that for those of you who don't know about everything Quincy Jones did, and only know him from Thriller and some of the later productions he did with some of the pop artists, I would suggest researching his background. I'm going to show you two of my favorite Quincy Jones records. Quincy recorded a number of records back in the 50s under his own name with a big band. Of course, he did a lot of writing and played with Count Basie for a number of years. But he also did a lot of writing and arranging for some big bands. Here's a record called The Birth of a Band, and it is on Mercury. This is the mono copy from back, I believe, in 1958 or 1959. Standards, jazz standards, and regular standards. Um, I'm not going to read them all down, but everything from Tuxedo Junction, which was which was I believe a Dorsey recording, to Monin, which is written and recorded by Art Blakey, not written by, but recorded by Art Blakey on his album Monin. I remember Clifford, Along Came Betty, some great tunes on here, and great players. We have on saxes the young Phil Woods, Frank West, Benny Golson, who wrote Along Came Betty. Frank West, a lot of Basie guys are on here. Shahib Shahab's on here. We've got Sam Woodyard on drums, known for the Duke Ellington band. Jimmy Cleveland, young Irby Green, Quentin Jackson, Melba Liston, of course, Quincy on trumpet, Clark Terry, Ernie Royal, and Joe Newman, all Basie guys. What's interesting on here is when they talk about the players, I don't know if you can see this or not, but they actually put the microphone numbers that they use, like they use the Telefunken U47 on the drums and piano, and Alltech on bass, Telefunken U47 on saxes, and an RCA 44BX. This is back when recording was, of course, all analog at the time, and microphone placement, and how they used, that technique of microphone placement. Al Schmidt was the genius. I don't know if he was involved in this, but it was on Mercury, and I believe it might have been recorded in L.A. But at any rate, no, it was done in New York. It was done at Fine Recording Studios in New York. This is a mono, and it was cut on an Ampex 300, while stereo tracking was done on an Ampex 350-2. So this is a great record. I don't know if you could stream this. If you find it, pick it up. It's one of my favorite Quincy Jones records. Exceptional record. Another one he did with kind of a small to medium-sized orchestra was called Quintessence. And it was done on Impulse. This is the mono again. And boy, it sounds good you have a mono cartridge here, as well as just a great sounding records on Impulse back in 1962 or 63, if I remember right. Recorded in 61, but kind of a bunch of originals on here. But again, Phil Woods is on here. I believe Freddie Hubbard's on here. The Happy, Milt Hinton, great bass player, always smiled. Milton Hinton on bass, but they use some horns on French horns on here, and some other great sounding instruments that are not normally used in a setting. But we've got again, Freddie Hubbard's on this, plays great. Thad Jones, Snooky Young, great lead player. If you look in the old Tonight Show and see a short little black guy in the back of that trumpet section, that was Snooky. What a lead player Snooky was, and could play jazz too. Frank West, Oliver Nelson, Bobby Short on piano and a couple tunes, Billy Byers on trombone. So this is an all-star band. Quintessence. It is available in reissue, and I would strongly suggest picking this up. Again, on Impulse in the early 60s, Impulse, the mono number is A11, so it's an early Impulse release. Two of my favorite Quincy Jones records. And then, again, check Quincy out. He's not all Michael Jackson and some of the other great stuff that he did, but he was really a formidable and one of the most versatile musicians in jazz music to ever live. And, I'm sure Quincy's up there doing some arranging right now. Just a couple other records here that I'd like to show you briefly. Kenny Burrell. I don't want to say Kenny Burrell is underrated, because he's not. I think along with a litany of great guitar players, certainly right up there. Um, he did two records that I would really suggest you pick up. One is Kenny Burrell with John Coltrane, and this was just recently reissued by Kraft in a really good sounding copy. This copy is really a compilation of that record and another record. I'm not sure which one it is, but it was done with Kenny Burrell and Coltrane, with Louis Hayes, Jimmy Cobb, Doug Watkins, Paul Chambers, and this was done on Prestige. Prestige did a number of these reissues back in the 70s. And if you can find any of these, there's a number of them. Art Farmer has one. A number of people are recording Prestige. You can get these gatefold copies of compilations, and they should be relatively cheap. And if you can find one in good condition, it's really well worth picking up. This one's in good shape, been cleaned, sounds great. But this is a great record, and it's been reissued recently. I think you could stream it on any of the streaming services. But a great record to have. If nothing else, if you can't find this, buy the Kraft recording that's out. Another great example of Kenny Burrell's versatility, and I'm not going to get really into this deep because I'm going to put a link to my friend Scott Wilson's video on this, on the pressing manners. Just a great record and a great sounding record. And this again is a reissue in the Acoustic Sounds Verve series. And it's 180 gram vinyl, QRP. It was mastered from the original analog tapes. I don't know who did the mastering on this. Might have been Kevin Gray. I'm not sure. But it's a gatefold. And the interesting thing about this record, called Guitar Forms, is the versatility and the different kinds of playing with different kinds of groups. There's some big band stuff on here. Not really big band, but arrangements by Gil Evans on a couple tunes. And again, check out Scott's review of this. I'm not going to dwell on this. Scott nailed it. I'm not going to go any more into it. But I would strongly suggest to pick this Kenny Burrell record up. You'll hear him play in myriad of different styles, and it's well worth your time to listen to. Kenny Burrell, great guitar player, great versatility. I'm honored to be part of a live stream. In fact, it'll be on tonight, every Wednesday night at 5 Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern on Everything Classical Music, hosted by Anthony Kershaw, and Scott Wilson's on that. James from London, I call him 99P James because he finds some great records. And we talk about everything classical music and show some records and talk about some artists and have discussions, some great guests. I encourage you to all, if you have any interest in classical music, whether you're new to classical, or you're still learning about classical, which I am every day, or been around it forever, like Anthony and James, and of course we have a great commentator from New York, Carl, who really talks about some streaming stuff that is really good to listen to, and some great guests in what Anthony calls the peanut gallery. Sky from Kansas City, I can't remember the gentleman's name, who shows records from his car in Maui, believe it or not. We've got listeners in Australia and all over. I'm honored to be part of this. It's on tonight, again, Wednesday night, 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern on YouTube, and it's called Audiophilia. You'll see it under their name on YouTube. I will put a link to it underneath. But enough of that. Recently, Scott and a number of people who are really very well versed in labels started talking about RCA Victor and the Living Stereo series. Since then, I don't want to say people are copying things, but there's been a couple other videos showing up on the same topic. Kudos to Anthony for being a groundbreaker and Scott for bringing up the subject, but it's been talked about. I was recently in Seattle and stopped at a great record store that I'll talk about in the next video when their records show up. They're being shipped to me right now. I picked up some great living stereos there in really good shape. But I have to tell you that these records are not new recordings. They've been around. For those of you who don't know, they've been around for up to 40 or 50 years old. But they've been remastered. Some of them again by Chad over in Acoustic Sounds, quality record pressings. On heavy vinyl, deluxe packaging. There's only 1,000 copies per stamper on these. There are a few available, and as I learned last week from Scott, these are not going to be repressed unless they have some covers that they want to get rid of. Once these are gone, I doubt they come back, and if they do, it's going to be quite a while. But they're on Acoustic Sounds website, and I think some of the other dealers may have some. The In Groove, great dealer. Elusive Disc, great dealer. They may or may not have them, but I know Acoustic Sounds has them. They have a few left, and if you can find them, they'll say Living Stereo on the top, and every one of them sounds great. They really do. I recently received this one here, and that's again on RCA Living Stereo, LSC 2111. W.C. Lemaire, of course, great piece, and from the Boston Symphony with Charles Mooch conducting, and then of course the Richard Strauss, Till Eulenspiegel's Merry Pranks, kind of an overblown piece, been played ad nauseum, but on here is Death and Transfiguration, one of my favorite tunes by Strauss, and of course it's Fritz Riner with the Vienna Philharmonic. This is a great sounding record. This was here when I got home. I'm going to open it and listen to it this afternoon. Two great RCAs, but if you could find these in decent condition, they are around. Here's an old Brahms 3 with Riner again with Chicago this time, again on RCA. This is an original. This is not a redone living stereo, but they're all good. I would say almost anyone you could find, pick them up. They're getting hard to find, especially in record stores. I think the days of finding any great value in record stores are over. The people who own record stores, they're pulling the RCA Victors, the Blue Notes, the valuable records that we used to. I guess they were called fines. We used to find them. They're pulling them and putting them on Discogs or eBay or somewhere, as they should, to make ends meet. Running a record store is not an easy proposition, and I encourage you all to support your local record stores if you can. It's a tough way to make a living. Record stores. How do you know what to buy? There's a million titles coming out, and once you buy them, you own them till you sell them. So. And the record people are becoming even more strict on returns, what have you. So support your record stores. But the days of goodbyes in record stores are done, and the way to really find things, I think, for me anyhow, is on Discogs or from, you might even find these in thrift stores. But here in America, there's not too many good value finds in record stores. I can tell you that you'll still find a copy of Quintessence in a record store. Maybe not the mono, but you'll find a reissue of it. So there's still a lot of great stuff to find. But at any rate, it's an interesting topic. Maybe one we should talk about a little bit more lengthy at another time. Anyhow, Count Basie on Pablo, the new Pablo that's out, reissued by Analog Productions. the Kenny Burrell, and of course the great late Quincy Jones. And those RCA Living Stereos, they're all good. Anyhow, until next time, thank you all for being here. Don't forget the classical stream tonight if you're interested. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you and goodbye.